someone who's written a lot and is exploring blockchain technologies. Many of you have written his blog posts, and he will tell you about 2 of his upcoming books. It's very exciting to have him join us, and he'll be talking about 5 reasons why FinTech is everyone's bank. So very exciting. Please join me in welcoming William.
Okay, thanks, Davina. Hello, everybody. So I have 4 minutes to give you a global context for what's going on in FinTech. This event is all about FinTech, and you're going to hear some great products that have almost nothing to do with banks, but have a lot to do with financial services. So to understand really the history of FinTech, we have to go back to the history of the Internet. For the first 10 years of the Internet, if you think about it, between 1995 to 2005, the banks did not really give us a lot of innovation. What did they give us? An online banking account? Big deal, right? So then the FinTech startups came as a response to the bank's lack of innovation with Internet technologies. And at the beginning, the banks did not feel that. Why? Because startups never go head on against the banks or big companies. What do? They go around, they go under, they go around them, and then quietly, before you know it, the startup is a big company, and then the banks start to feel it. See, between the banks and the startups, it's a very strange relationship. The banks and big companies in general are always very curious about startups. So they kind of see them as different animals, and they like to poke at them. But it's almost like you go to the zoo and you visit animals, and the animals are fine, you can play with them. But the real test is when you want to try to bring the animals home. And what happens then? And that's when issues might happen. So one of the things that might happen is you bring the animal home, and then the animal wants to play with your toys, but you don't let them. Or what happens is what is called the turkey syndrome. You know, turkey is so happy the whole year because the turkey is being fed, and then the turkey thinks that life is beautiful and everything's fine, but what happens 3 days before Thanksgiving? The turkey is stuffed. Too bad. So that's the relationship between startups and banks. Anyways, some numbers to give you just some context about what's going on with FinTech. Last year alone, in the UK, $2 billion pounds in loans, in peer-to-peer loans in the UK only. $1 billion in one quarter, the last quarter, by Venmo. Again, users sending money to each other. And Kickstarter, for example, $2 billion have been pledged to Kickstarter projects. It's another form of financing, right? And then, as Emma mentioned, I am running currently a Kickstarter campaign for 2 of my books. And so if you follow the Twitter stream and you want to contribute, the link is there. TransferWise, 500 million pounds in the last month, only monthly. 500 million pounds monthly, TransferWise. This is people sending money to each other. And the banks are losing 22 million pounds in fees that are not going to the banks because the fees are very, very low on TransferWise. How many have an idea what's the size of PayPal? How many billions they do in volume? 50, 100? $282 billion is PayPal's volume. In China, they have one thing called Alipay, which is the equivalent of PayPal. They have 350 million users, more than the US population, and they do $500 billion in volume. This is huge. So, what are the 5 trends I want to talk about quickly? 1, mobile. Who goes to the branch anymore, right? EQ Bank is all mobile. Number 2, innovation versus regulation. Regulation is okay because it protects consumers, yes, but regulation is not good because it doesn't let innovation go through. So the banks have had a challenge with innovation because of the protection of regulation. So what happens is that innovation happens outside. Thirdly, cryptocurrencies and the blockchain. It's happening. Money is digitizing everywhere. 200,000 transactions on Bitcoin daily happening today. 22,000 transactions on Ethereum, a new blockchain that's not even 6 months old. It's happening. Identity and data. Who owns your online identity? Who owns your online identity? Google and Facebook, right? And who owns your data? Any company you deal with, your bank, the phone company, a retailer, they own the data. But going forward, who's gonna be owning their data? We want to be owning our data. Big change. Finally, the banks are as a back end. When you hook up your bank account to a Bitcoin exchange, or when you hook it up to an Eventbrite event, or to a Kickstarter campaign, or to Apple Pay, or to Uber, what happens? You're moving money, but you're not touching your bank account. So banks are becoming a back end. I'm getting the 1 minute sign here. So in the same way that software is eating the world, FinTech is going to be eating the banks. Banks are not going to go away, but their market share is going to be shrinking, and that's really the reality of things. So you have a lot of great companies ahead that you're going to be listening to, and I want you all to support them because they are the future of FinTech in Canada. Thank you.